basically how we are doing the podcast in our classes. What we use, what we need to make it moderately successful. Before we get started, I want to give you a little background about ourselves. I am Scott Duarte. We'll get to you. My website is www.eslstudentpublications.com. It is on the top right corner on this. You go there, you can see my students' video podcast that they have produced. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and during that time my students have put together roughly 90 podcasts. Now, that's an insane number, and don't start there, okay? And we'll talk about that in a little while. But it shows what you can do. You can also find the podcast on the iTunes store. They're free to download and watch whenever you want. It's titled ESL Communicative English Musings. You can go onto the iTunes store and in the little search, and you can type in ESL Musings, or you can type in my name, and it should pop up.
The other one that will pop up is our co-podcast. www.education.org is my website, and he and I do a podcasting show, and if you take a look at the green postcard, that's our little thing for that. And what we focus on in the podcast is situations and content for ESL teachers, not students. Everybody and their brothers doing student stuff. So we need something to talk to the teachers about, problems, issues, ideas, new ideas, old ideas for the classroom. So this podcast is aimed mainly at you guys and your friends. So please tell everyone.
At all levels, like elementary school, middle school, high school, or just
we're focusing a little bit more on higher education, but if you send us a question, my mom's a 25-year elementary school teacher, so I'd be happy to do it. Plus, currently right now, I'm teaching, doing teacher training for elementary school English teachers in Japan.
And we do bring up, I've taught middle school and I've taught high school, both in the States and abroad, so we bring up that as well. But it is predominantly post-secondary.
Yeah. Now, to the good stuff, my students are doing primarily audio, whereas his students are doing primarily video. So we'll hear a couple clips from what my kids are doing as well a little bit later.
All right. So let's start with a pretty cool quote. Where is his name? Where is his name?
It's coming. It's probably in with this.
Okay, well, you don't need to know his name. Celeste Freinet of the Freinet movement, he is French, said students should take an active role in technology rather than a passive role. And what's really cool is he said this, if it came up,
One more.
in the 1920s. Now, the modern technology he was talking about was his students were using the printing press to create their own newspapers, and they would exchange them with other French students doing the same. Now, technology has moved a little higher since the printing press, but it's still the same. Our students should be actively using that technology rather than just sitting down and taking a passive role. Now, in the classroom, you have two types. If you're using media, you have two types of lessons. You have passive lessons and you have active lessons.
So with the passive lesson, basically what your students are doing is just bringing the material into their brains, rearranging it a little bit, and then answering questions about it. It's very much lecture, repeat, lecture, repeat. Doesn't matter if the particular medium is video, audio, or me standing in front of the class. It has its moments. There are things that it is good for, but the retention of the material and the engagement of the students, as you all well know, is generally pretty low. So what we're looking for is an active classroom and active use of technology. And so what this is to make sure it was going to go and that my button was going to work. What this is going to be is, instead of students just receiving the material, we want them to build the material. And from building the material, they're going to have a much higher motivation rate. They're going to have a much more invested feeling in what's coming out, and as the bonus, they're going to have a much higher attention and understanding of the material and why they've made the choices that they have.
Okay, now the same thing goes with, why is my button?
Technology.
Yeah,
Technology's great.
great!
When it works. When it works.
It skipped it all the way. I love technology. Okay, the same thing with using any type of video in your class. Now, a lot of us use, and I do the same thing, use movie clips or have the students watch it and then work on vocabulary in the scene or comprehension, or if you're doing American culture and linking it to that. And that's a very great tool. But what I want is having them actually create it, get off their butts and do it.
Americans are not in the habit of drinking Japanese tea. However, that's not true because Japanese drink green tea because it goes well with any food. Japanese usually drink green tea between classes to reduce their stress and feel relaxed. Japanese drink green tea because it's fresh and leaves pleasant aftertaste. No matter how busy Japanese are, they drink at all times like a white which is called Indian in green tea. It's nutritious and makes people's skin beautiful.
Advertisement.
Keep teaing.
If McDonald's can say I'm loving it, my students can say keep teeing.